One of the things that we really love to talk about, we love to dive into, we love to contemplate is the transition that people face when they have been a member of a team and now all of a sudden they've been promoted into a leadership role, and there's a whole different set of duties and responsibilities that they have now. It's um, it's a challenge for most people. That's what we're going to be talking about today. Hi, and welcome into the M Squared Leadership Conversation. This is a space where we talk honestly about the real challenges leaders
Mhm.
face and what it actually takes to lead well in the real world. That's Michelle. I'm Michael, and together we're M and M.
No,
We're not.
no,
We're M squared is
yeah,
who we are. We're not M and M. We're M squared.
yeah.
But yeah, welcome. Thanks for spending a few minutes with us today. We're going to talk about a subject that we keep circling back to, and as I said in the intro, it's been a process to figure out what M squared is really going to be about. What is it that we're going to focus on? And we feel like leadership is such a broad field.
Hmm.
Personal development is such, there's so many facets, so many aspects, and we've had some experience in a lot of them. We feel like we have things to offer over a variety of areas of the spectrum, but you gotta pick a lane at some point, and it's been hard. But this is what we've kind of settled on as our lane, Michelle. We've both been through this. It's this transition that people make from being a team member to a leader on the team, and it's hard. It's,
Yeah.
it's a challenge.
We keep coming back to it because it's really at the root of how the mission is executed.
Hmm.
So, leaders who are trying to go into this new leadership position, first entering, these are usually the middle managers.
Hmm.
They're the people, in the middle of the hierarchy of
Yeah, you
the
don't usually
organization.
go into a CEO type role right off the bat. So
Right.
you end up in the middle where you have somebody that you're still reporting to, but yet you've now got people
Uh-huh.
that you're responsible for.
And really, this even goes a little bit higher where maybe then you're leading leaders. And it's very important that we note that every time you make these transitions of entering into a new leadership position, you have to take on a different role. You have a different outlook. You have a different set of responsibilities.
Hmm.
You have to change the way you're operating. And most of the time, we just don't get prepared for that. I think in theory, we know that it's going to be a little different. And it's different when you have to interact with your boss than your peer. But becoming the boss, becoming the team lead, becoming the department manager, where now you have to lead leaders, um, we don't talk enough about that. We don't talk enough
Yeah.
about the mindset change that has to happen. And this is where we've seen so many organizations start to fail, or where their leadership lid gets capped
Hmm.
because we're not focusing on these middle leaders or the transition that leaders make.
And we like to think that it's a natural kind of progression, and
Right?
and in a lot of ways it is. It's become the norm in the way that organizations typically do business. It's just the expected thing that you have a high performer and you promote them, then you determine that they're the one best equipped to be the leader of the team, and so you promote them, and it goes from there. But I think the mistake that we make, we being organizations at large, is just presuming that they'll figure it out. And a lot of times they do, but it's a different skill set to be a top performer than to lead other people. It's just,
And I think that we probably do, when we're getting ready to promote, we do see an evolution of the person.
We do.
And we do see leadership capabilities. And we do put them in the position, not blindly. It's not like that's all that we ever see is just a high performer and then we stick them in the leadership positions. But you still can't leave things unsaid. You've got to state the obvious. What may be obvious to you, well, when you get here, now you need to be a strategist instead of, an analyst. But you've got to say these things. And the more clear you can be at the beginning and during the transition and before the transition, letting them know what the position really is going to look like, the better they can perform, the better they can ease into this new mindset that they have to have. And I think that's what we want to do today is go over a list of things that is a shift in the mindset.
Yeah.
Here's where you were before, and here's where you need to get to. And I know we've hit this from many, many different angles, but this is what we do.
There's a
And
lot to it.
and it's so nuanced, like you said, that it bears coming at it from different angles. And hopefully one of these angles is going to resonate with you as you're making the transition, or with you as the leader, or the owner, the CEO who's putting these new leaders into their new positions.
Yeah. And the good news here is that there are people out there who are a lot smarter and done this more than we have and better than we have. And we love to learn from those kind of people.
Absolutely.
One of which is this guy named Michael Watkins. Now, um, Michael Watkins is a professor. His bio here says he's professor of leadership and organizational change at IMD, a co-founder of Genesis Advisors and the author of The First 90 Days, which is from Harvard Business Press. Now, I got introduced to Michael Watkins and his, teachings years ago. I got promoted. My first promotion in the Social Security Administration, where I worked for 25 years, was into a leadership development program. This is way back in 2004. I was 3 years into my career at that point, and one of the books, they did a really good job of setting us up for success in this program. And they gave us books to read. And one of those books was The First 90 Days. Really enjoyed it. It's a very informative book. And so I've been aware of Michael Watkins for a long time. And I came across something recently that we're going to focus on today. It's an article in Harvard Business Review, the three forces that are redefining the transition from manager to leader. Now, Watkins is talking about manager to leader transition. He's talking about more of a people going from a middle manager role to a C-suite type of executive role. But I think the principles that he talks about here are equally as relevant to more of our thing, which is going from a non-leader, non-manager at all, just a regular team member, into your first management role or an entry-level management role. So we're going to pull some things out of here. The three forces are good, and he brings out some really good points about how the world has changed over the last few years, and then certainly it has with the COVID pandemic, and the advent of AI and things like that. So that's really good stuff. But where I want to focus here is he developed 7 like transitions that people make. The 7 transitions from manager to leader. We're going to put them in the context of the 7 transitions from team member to team leader. And I want to talk about those because I think there's really a lot there. The first one is from specialist to generalist. And I love this because it resonates with me. When I got my first promotion at Social Security, I moved from a role where I was specialized in one particular program that Social Security administers. And then when I got promoted, I had to like rise up from this low level view to a higher level view because there's more than one program. And now I've got to lead people who are doing multiple different roles and not specialized. So I had to become more of a generalist. I had to understand that there's a bigger picture, there's a larger world than what I had been operating in, and go from there. It's a big transition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as I've read through all of these, I think that's the underlying theme for all of this is to go from a narrow view to a larger view,
Mm-hmm.
and just to stop focusing on this aspect, but look how this aspect fits into this picture, to this picture, to this picture,
I think
until
you're
you've
right.
got, yeah, it's putting all the pieces of the puzzle together.
And I
And
think we'll see that principle more and more as we talk through these.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. So from specialist to generalist. And then the next one is from analyst to integrator. Now, this one I think is maybe a little more nuanced.
Mm-hmm.
And it, again, we're already back where we started. As an analyst, you by nature of an analyst kind of function, you analyze a narrow scope of things. It's
Mm-hmm.
hard to be an analyst that I analyze everything in the
Mm-hmm.
whole wide world.
Mm-hmm.
Well, do you really?
Mm-hmm.
Because you kind of have to focus on something in order to
Mm-hmm.
analyze it, right? So that by definition kind of narrows your scope.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas an integrator, you're trying to, like you said, fit the puzzle pieces together
Mm-hmm.
and bring this component together with this one and bring everything into a whole so that it is integrated at that
Mm-hmm.
point and is not just a collection of pieces, but it's something, it
Mm-hmm.
makes up something larger.
The word integrator kind of has a special place in my heart because years ago, when I was working as an operations manager for a nonprofit, we were trying to figure out what my role really was. And I took this test, and it came up with this term that I was an integrator.
Mm.
And I love that. That kind of defined, it helped me really focus in on what my role was now.
Mm-hmm.
And I had multiple, departments, and those heads had multiple leaders, that in
Mm-hmm.
under them. And the thing that we needed to do was to all work together for the mission of the nonprofit. You had to understand your role, but you also had to understand how your role fit in so that you could
Mm.
support the other roles within the organization. And it was kind of my job to remind people, to educate people on, don't be offended about your particular, little territory. don't
Right.
don't be defensive about that. Be open-minded that, okay, I do this to serve this area, but this area does this to serve and support my area. And so, a long way to say, it's like putting all the pieces together. And as the integrator, you are responsible for educating people on how their piece of the puzzle fits into the larger picture and the importance of it. We can sometimes let people become so territorial in their little area that they have an attitude and I mean, if you've ever worked with a subject matter expert,
Yes.
a lot of times they will they will be
They're a little obsessive.
they are very obsessive about that, or might have an attitude or whatever. I love that they're an expert in their area, but you shouldn't hold your cards so close to the vest that you can't pull out and see the whole game that's being played and the
Yeah.
mission that needs to be accomplished. And so an integrator is going to be, when you make this change, you have to look at every department and kind of help educate them and bring them together as a cohesive team to work together and understand how each department is working and that we're all on the same team and we're trying to accomplish one thing, and the importance of letting somebody have the spotlight when, their software, makes the upgrade and fixes some problems. Don't be jealous that they got a little attention or, the party that week or whatever. Support and celebrate their wins. And when they're having trouble, find ways that you can support them. And when you do that, they're going to do the same for you in your department. And so as an integrator, you want to bring all of that together.
Bring it together. It's making me think, and for our audience, one of our favorite TV shows is Breaking Bad. There's a character on there, Hank, who's the brother-in-law of the main protagonist, and he's a DEA agent, and he gets on the trail of the bad guy, and he is obsessed. He, just like what we were talking about, he's deep diving into, I got to catch this guy. I got to catch this guy. Well, through the course of the program, he gets promoted to be the boss, but he can't let it go. He doesn't make this transition from like analyst to integrator or from specialist to generalist. He is so focused on this mission that he is taken on for himself that he can't make that rise up to the next level and see, okay, there's more to this thing than just my case that I'm so obsessed with.
And just this one bad
it's
guy.
a conundrum, because what made him such a good cop, so to speak, is that obsessive nature that he was dogged in his pursuit, and he was not going to be denied catching the bad guy. It's the same thing that kept him from succeeding in his role as ASAC,
Yeah.
as the boss of the office.
Yeah. So I've heard it say, usually there's one element that's your vice and your virtue. And whatever element that is that makes you so good can also be your downfall.
Yeah.
So
If it's overused.
all things in moderation, which is our motto here in the house. All things in moderation. So, but the role that you're having to transition to is trying to be more of the person who wants to catch multiple bad guys.
Right.
Not just the one.
Not just
While
one.
you're so focused on the one, there's 100 out here running amok. And so it's very important that we stay focused on the big picture, on the mission. What is our what can we do to reach the mission?
Analyst to integrator.
Yeah.
Okay. The next one is tactician to strategist. And I love this because it has military connotations, and tactics are what we need to do right now to get this immediate job done. And strategy is, again, we're saying the same thing over and over, but there's different angles to it.
Sure.
This is, again, moving from a more narrow view to a larger, broader view. And it's the strategy of where are we going versus what do I need to do right now in the moment that seems best, and it's going to accomplish what's right in front of me. So that's a big transition for people.
So to me, this one speaks to looking at long term instead of always looking at what we're doing right now in the short term.
It's vision, is it not?
It's vision. It's the focusing on the important, and not always the urgent. Urgent has to be attended to, of course.
Love that.
But making time for the important, which is training, vision planning, knowing where we're going, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Very good. So the next one is bricklayer to architect. This is almost something that we've used ourselves, and we came to it independently. We didn't copy Michael Watkins' work, but it's this idea of, if the senior level leader is the architect of the vision and where we're going with this thing, what we want it to look like, again, in the longer term and as a grand, integrated design, then the middle managers and the people who are making that transition from a contributing team member to now a leader of a team,
Mm-hmm.
they are the ones who are they're hammering the nails, they're
Mm-hmm.
laying the bricks,
Mm-hmm.
they're, pouring the foundation
Mm-hmm.
and whatever, and they're building this thing
Mm-hmm.
that the C-suite people have envisioned.
Mm-hmm.
And so if they don't get it right, guess what happens? It doesn't look like the
Mm-hmm.
blueprints that you
Mm-hmm.
drew up.
Yeah, this makes me think of going to, our middle manager is like the contractor or the actual builder, the project manager on the job kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. You're the one who has to manage everything that's going to go into building, this masterpiece that's
Yeah.
been designed. So rather than, again, it's a big picture. You're looking at the big blueprint. Yes, you have to focus down, assign this to this person, assign this to that person. You got to bring in the electrician, the bricklayer, the plumber, all the different things. But you're the one who has to keep focus on, um, did they lay the brick right? Was the right kind of brick, you know,
Mm-hmm.
brought in? You are not laying the brick anymore, but you've got to make sure that the brick was laid right.
Yeah, and you're I like where you're going with this, because for our purposes, you're not really the middle manager is in a sense not the bricklayer, not the mason
Mm-hmm,
himself,
mm-hmm.
but the contractor that's overseeing the crew, like the
Exactly.
sub, the head of the bricklaying crew.
Mm-hmm,
So now
mm-hmm,
you've got to make sure that this guy's laying bricks the right way, as is this guy, and they're going to meet in the
mm-hmm.
middle and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and of course you can tell I'm not super up on, all the building terms. So I know the contractors are the ones that are all being brought in,
Mm-hmm.
but you have somebody usually who is, the builder.
Right.
He's the
Yeah.
one building the place for you.
Yeah.
When we built our house years ago, we hired somebody to oversee all those things
Uh-huh.
because we could not, we knew the house that we wanted
Mm-hmm.
and we knew a lot of the elements that we wanted, but then we had to trust this builder to get it done for us.
Yeah.
And, sometimes he did a really good job and sometimes he didn't do such a great job, overseeing, and that's where the builder, sometimes we don't take on that mindset. We're so focused on, well, I was good at, putting the knobs on the cabinets when now you have to make sure the whole kitchen, is as it should
Yeah.
be.
Exactly.
And again, it's always backing out, you know, and looking at the big picture.
And that's such a good example. And I hadn't really thought of that. But when we built our house, this has been what,
2010, 16 years ago.
16 years ago. That's a really good illustration of this, because the architect, we had blueprints, we had the
Hmm.
plans, but we deviated from the
We
plans
did.
by intention
Hmm.
with our builder. And
Hmm.
it was, if the architect is the CEO, then what the CEO envisioned for our house didn't actually come completely to fruition. Now,
Hmm.
by and large, it did.
Hmm.
If you took a casual glance from the blueprints to the finished house, you would say, "Yep, that's that house."
Hmm.
But there were things in there
Hmm.
that the architect never imagined,
Hmm.
and we changed it intentionally. And
Hmm.
it was the builder, it was that middle
Hmm.
manager who was responsible for
Hmm.
that. And that influence that middle manager had could have been used for good, and it was, because I think we made some upgrades,
Hmm.
or it could have been um, used for evil. I mean,
Hmm.
so to speak.
Hmm.
You We talked last time about culture, and the culture is not what you aspire to. Culture is what actually is happening in your organization, and we can't overstate the importance that our middle leaders have on the culture that's happening in your organization.
Absolutely.
All right, bricklayer to architect. I like that one. The next transition is problem solver to agenda setter. I think there's a lot here too. Um, and I think probably many people can relate to being a problem solver. It
Mm-hmm.
is where we find a lot of our value sometimes, especially as an individual contributor. You want to be the one, I think, I do, that the boss can come to. I've got this problem. I need help. Oh, I can handle it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the role that you
Mm-hmm.
appreciate. There comes a certain amount of satisfaction that comes
Mm-hmm.
with that, being able to say, I'm the one that solved the problem. Look at
Mm-hmm.
me. But you have to let go of some of that when you move into leadership, and especially as you move from a middle leader to a senior leader. Most of the problem solving, if it still depends on you're in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
You need to have that happening at more grassroots levels in the organization. So it's a transition.
Yeah, and it's your high performing employees want to be able to solve problems. They
Mm-hmm.
want to be able to solve the problem for you. They want to know what is the problem, and then they'll solve it. So sometimes I think, I had a boss one time who, would tell me what the problem is, and as I would be automatically thinking and strategizing about what it was going to take to solve that problem, he was giving me three different options or telling me the
Here's
way
how
to
you can
here's how
solve the
you can do
problem.
it. And it wasn't what best suited a lot of times, um, my skill set. If I went about it in a different way, I could solve it. And I wanted to take that away from him. I wanted him just to be able to tell me what the problem was and I would solve it for him.
Uh-huh.
But he had a really hard time letting go of that, letting go of helping me solve the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And that's taking time away from where he
The
should be.
larger duties that he
Hmm.
could be doing
Hmm.
and should be doing.
Yeah. So I always say, as the leader, you need to be able to set the what and
Mm-hmm.
then let them figure out the
The
how.
how.
It sharpens their skills, it makes them use their critical thinking skills more, and it really develops them as people, fulfills them. Nobody wants to be micromanaged. Your good employees, um, they don't want to be micromanaged. They want to be able to have some autonomy to work and solve and think, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what makes it good, fun, and as fun as work can
Yeah,
be.
right.
But that's what makes it fulfilling to be able to come to work,
Yeah.
is to be able to, you know, have some say in how we're going to solve the problem.
Yeah.
So for this one, I just always go back to you say what the issue is, set the agenda, set the um, issues at hand, and let them be the ones who decide how it gets done.
And I think that's a perfect way to articulate what Watkins is saying here is the agenda setter. What
Mm-hmm.
is the what?
Mm-hmm.
What's the what that we need to be
Mm-hmm.
doing? What is it that's on the agenda?
Mm-hmm.
Higher up boss, and you let me figure out the
Mm-hmm.
how. Let me solve the problems.
Mm-hmm.
I got a revelation even as we were having this conversation, which is one of the reasons I love doing this. This is not work to me.
Mm-hmm.
Recording these podcasts, I get a lot out of this. I started off talking about this particular transition by saying, I think people basically want to be problem solvers. They want to be the ones who are able to do that. They want that to be their reputation. I know I do. And it just occurred to me as you were saying that leader that you work with had a hard time letting you do that. If I want it, then other people probably want it too,
Mm-hmm.
and I need to put myself in their shoes. And when I get promoted to a level to where I can kind of let go of some of that and let them take it on, I need to do that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and if you can just change your mindset and know that you are problem solving,
You're just
just
solving a
at a
different
different
problem.
you're at a different level of problem solving. The problem that you are solving is that you are developing the people to do the work.
Uh-huh.
And you are allowing them to do the work to accomplish the mission. And when you are the one doing all the work and they're sitting over there twiddling their thumbs or just being reactive to whatever you hand them, then you've created a problem. You're not solving a problem, you've created a problem. So
Absolutely.
it's just a different mindset. It's a different way of just viewing what your role is now.
And the point here is, again, if you don't if we don't talk about these things, most of it just goes right over our heads because
Mm-hmm.
we're in the moment, we're trying to get stuff done, and we're just busy, busy, busy. Everybody is doing their best. Your leader, who had this tendency to want to give you the problem and then the solution, was doing his best. He
Mm-hmm.
was there. I know this. I know who you're talking about, and there's not a malicious bone in this person's body. They're genuinely out for the greater good of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're not mindful about these things and we don't pause to think about them and talk about them, then we're not going to get it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's rare that it happens by
Mm-hmm.
accident. We need to do it on purpose.
And to his credit, whenever I brought that to his attention, he was willing to change.
Mm-hmm.
But he was like, I need like a code word
Uh huh.
or something, you know. And we did. It would be like a question, is that the way you want me to do it, or is that a suggestion? And so we would do that, and then he would realize, no, you can do it however you want to, or for this particular situation, I need it done this way for this reason.
Right.
And so, to his credit, when I brought it to his attention, he was more than willing to work with that. So I think sometimes we just have to, you know, the awareness is the issue.
I love it. The next transition, we got two more to go. Warrior to diplomat. Again, another military kind of connotation, um, at least partially. As a frontline team member, you're in it. You're in there every day. You're doing the thing, and you're trying to attack and accomplish the mission, and you're doing what's right in front of you. But then when you make this transition into leadership, you become more of a diplomat. You have to balance competing priorities and interests from different areas, and especially in Watkins's connotation here, when you move from a middle leader to a more senior leader, you not only have one team that you have to be responsible for, you've got multiple teams now, which each have a different function and somewhat of a different mission that all hopefully integrate and fit into the larger mission of the organization as a whole. But everybody can't always get exactly what they want all the time. And so you have to become more diplomatic. You have to weigh and balance all of that stuff.
Yeah, and I thought of it kind of like this: whenever I know I have this task to do as a worker, I will fight for whatever it takes to get this done. Like
Mm-hmm.
I defend this position, you know, I'll kind of go to battle for it.
Mm-hmm.
But when you become the leader, you can't fight every single little. You've
You have
got
to pick your
multiple
battles.
people that are fighting for maybe resources, or you know, right now, I don't care as a worker. I don't care if anybody else gets their resources. I need
Yeah.
my resources to get this done. This is my mission. As the leader, your mission has changed.
Mm-hmm.
It's for everybody to get their job done. So you have to divvy up the resources. You have to be much more diplomatic about it. You
It's
have to
a
be, much more conservative with the way that you distribute the resources.
yeah, and you have to have that strategic versus tactical mindset
Mm-hmm.
because the people who are doing exactly what you said and fighting for whatever they need to get their piece of the puzzle done right now, they're doing exactly what they're supposed to do. They're This is their job.
Mm-hmm.
not that over there. So
Right.
they've got to concentrate on this. That's what they're supposed to be
Mm-hmm.
doing. But you, as the leader, have to view that versus this sometimes. And if there's only a limited amount of resources, you've got to make a decision based on the larger um, ramifications, organizational wide,
Mm-hmm.
of where those resources
Mm-hmm.
go.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can't blame the people who are in the trenches for fighting for what they need,
Mm-hmm.
but there has to be that diplomat kind of function that figures out, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I see, and you have to be diplomatic about it because you've got to take care of the people even if you can't give them what they need and want right
Mm-hmm.
now. You still have to maintain and nurture those
Mm-hmm.
relationships
Mm-hmm.
so that they don't feel neglected or a
Mm-hmm.
certain way about the decision that you had to
Right.
make.
And it can't be personal. Like it
Yeah.
can't, you can't be offended that somebody's fighting for what they need. You rise above that a little bit and you're like, hey, I understand. I know you need this. I'm going to give you what I can and we're going to work with it from there. And I know that you will work and make it happen. You all comes back to people every time. We're working with people. These are not, pieces on a chessboard that can be moved around
Mm-hmm.
without any consequences to their feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this is people. And when you move into that diplomatic role, that is much, you're caring for people, on a greater scale. You're not just concerned about your coworker, your buddy. You're now concerned for everybody on the team. Um, and I look at this a lot of times in with politicians, um, and there are some good ones out there. I do believe, maybe one or two. Um, but the soldiers, the airmen, the Marines, you know, all of these men out there and women out there that are serving, they have specific roles that they're playing, and even the officers. But that person that's dealing with another head of state or another country, they have to be very mindful of what's going to put America in the best light, what's going to be the best for our country. We're hoping that's what they're doing, that they're conversing in a way that really makes the greater good come to life.
Mm-hmm.
And then that has to all be passed down. Um, I don't know that. I think that's all like a really big scale. But when you come back to the office and you've got these people that are, because I've been there and have been there. Um, I want I want what I need to get my job done and to do it well.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't always want to do right now. There's huge changes being made in the agency that I work for. And I don't want to do a lot of the changes that are being made because I see where it's hurting the people that I serve, the
Yeah.
people that I work with. But
You're
my managers also have a responsibility that they've got to manage this vision that's coming down, all the transitions that are happening, and try to take care of their people.
They see at a different level
They
as
do.
they have to.
And they try to be, very diplomatic about the way they handle us and what has to be done.
Yeah. As you were talking, one of the things that came to me so strongly is the importance of emotional intelligence because it's all dealing with people.
Mm-hmm.
And you can never escape that in leadership
Mm-hmm.
is it's all about people. And when we talk about, being strategic and having a vision for where the organization is going, and we can use the organization as this kind of generic term, but the organization is people. It's made up of people. And in order to do anything successfully at a leadership level, you have to interact effectively with people.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes emotional intelligence.
Absolutely.
So, all right, one more transition here unit leader to enterprise leader. And I think this is maybe the most obvious one of all, especially in Watkins's context, because you're he's talking about a middle leader advancing into a more senior role
Mm-hmm.
where, instead of leading a unit, now you've got a broader responsibility and you're looking at a collection of units, some kind
Mm-hmm.
of a whole on an organizational level here. Um, so yeah, that's I think what he's talking about there, and it ties in. A lot of these are very closely related.
They are. Um, for this one, I think about looking, um, instead of looking at units, you look at a whole. Again, it goes back to the pieces of the puzzle all fitting together, looking at the big picture. But as a leader, you don't realize how much you have to back out of the way that you were thinking as a worker bee.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason we keep wanting to talk about this is because it's a mind shift
Yeah.
and a mindset shift. And the only way to get there is to talk through it, I think. You can see it. You're so busy in your day. You're so busy going, doing, explaining, answering to people that you will feel worn down and burn out if very quickly if you're not understanding what your role really is, because you're gonna
Mm-hmm.
be drained if you're constantly still trying to do your job and figuring out how everybody else does their job and helping them and filling in for them. And you've got to be more than the worker bee now. You've got to be the person that enables, resources, serves the worker bees
Yeah.
by providing them clear vision, clear expectations. You just, and you think it's obvious that this is just going to happen when you step into it.
We'd all like to think that.
But
It's
when you
not.
stop and you talk about it and you keep having the conversations, it's almost like you need therapy when
Mm-hmm.
you're a leader. You need this leadership therapy, like
Yeah.
once a week or once a quarter, whatever it might be, where you can stop, evaluate what's actually happened, how it's going, interactions that you've been having. An employee is failing. What can you do to help them? It's an evolution of who you are and what your role is, an evolution of your role. And I think, like I started off saying, we see people evolving. That's the reason we promote them.
Mm-hmm.
But we've got to specifically get into their brain a little bit and say, hey, you are now going to be taking on a different role. So we've got to change your mindset.
And we never do that.
We don't do it.
I've never been in an organization where that conversation really got had. It just didn't. It we'll all figure it out as we go was the unstated expectation. But you're right. These, if you look at a Venn diagram, if you made a Venn diagram of the skill sets and abilities that somebody needs to be effective as an individual contributor versus a leader, there is some overlap for sure. There's things in the middle of that Venn diagram, in the middle of those two circles. Um, but then there are things that you're going to have to let go of that made you a good, and this is part of what made you a good individual contributor. You got to let go of those things a little bit, and you've got to pick up some additional skills and abilities
Mm-hmm.
that didn't really
Mm-hmm.
matter all that much as an individual contributor, but now they become crucial
Mm-hmm.
to actually lead people effectively. And if we're not intentional about that, it might happen or it might not.
Mm-hmm.
And your building might end up looking very different than the
Mm-hmm.
architect drew it up.
Mm-hmm. And I want to say this. This has kind of felt a little bit heavy, like as we've talked about these, you've got to do this instead of that, and you got to change your mindset, and but it's actually exciting and
Absolutely.
it's fun. It's fun to take on this new role. It's fun to see people develop. It's fun to serve and support people. It's fun to learn this new skill set and grow your skill set in leadership.
Hmm.
And it's exciting. It's exciting when you think about you can make your workplace better,
Yes.
grow your leadership skill set, and you're going to make your organization better. You have that power. That middle leader, oh my gosh, can make or break. You can make it miserable for people to come to work, or you can make it easy.
Yeah, and if there's one thing that I would want everybody to take away from this is keep going, keep
Mm-hmm.
working at it, keep getting better, keep doing the next right thing, learning, applying leadership principles, because there's a good friend that we follow. We don't know the guy, but Ryan Leake says there's levels to this thing,
Mm-hmm.
and it's never been more true than it is as it relates to leadership
Right.
and the ability to lead people well. Keep pursuing,
Yes,
keep getting better at it. You can do this.
absolutely.
So I want to thank you all for spending a few minutes with us in this M squared leadership conversation. Remember, leadership isn't about having all the answers. It's about being willing to ask better questions. So until next time, stay curious, lead well, and keep
Keep
the
the
conversation
conversation
going.
going.
Bye bye.